Welcome back to Movies TV Man. You can follow me on Twitter at Movies TV Man. And welcome to Tuesday's all-new show. If you're watching the live premiere, this is our opportunity to interact together, fans together, discussing and reacting to each other's points of view constructively. So if you have any comments, I will respond to them. If you have any questions, I will answer them. On Tuesday's all-new show, we'll be discussing how Batgirl deserved better, but not in the way that you think. And in the second part of the show, we'll be discussing the Flash movie and its prequel comic, something I'm very excited to discuss with all of you today. But first, Batgirl deserved better, but not in the way you think. The only person who put Batgirl first was David Zaslav by cancelling her movie. The casting was wrong, the directors were wrong, the writer was wrong. I don't think Christina Hodson had a great handle on Batgirl. The budget was wrong. Toby Emmerich and Walter Hamada did everything wrong with this movie, and David Zaslav could see that. Joss Whedon was originally going to write and direct this movie. Do you think that Joss Whedon would have tolerated a 70 million to 100 million budget and being squeezed over, dumped on streaming on HBO Max? Of course he fucking wouldn't. I don't agree with Joss Whedon's conduct on the Justice League reshoots and some of the things he's accused of over on Buffy, but he is a genius. Buffy was a great show, Angel was a great show, and he would have written and directed a great Batgirl movie. But because of his conduct on the Justice League set, that was an impossible situation. And that was the moment Batgirl was in trouble. But they still could have made some great decisions. You know, say what you want about Joss Whedon. He knows Batgirl, he loves the character, and he's been very successful with a female-led television show. So this would have been excellent. And we've discussed before, you know, the reverence I hold the first Avengers movie in. That was Joss. Totally Joss and only Joss. Whether you like him or not. If you like the Avengers movie, the first one, it's because of Joss Whedon. Now, obviously, there must have been issues with Joss because Kevin Feige let him go after Age of Ultron. It wasn't the best of movies, but it wasn't the worst of movies either. I think it's a solid movie. But Batgirl deserved better. It deserved a Nolan. It deserved a Reeves. It deserved a Tim Burton. Why is it that Batman gets to be directed by Burton, Reeves, and Nolan, but this movie was going to have a $70 million budget dumped over on HBO Max on streaming and be directed by a couple of directors who are okay, but they're not visionaries, and they also have a very small CV, and Christina Hodson wrote this movie. Is that what you think Batgirl deserves? And let's talk about the people, the non-Batgirl fans that are so triggered by the cancellation of Batgirl by David Zaslav. And in fact, by cancelling it, David Zaslav is the only one protecting the integrity of this phenomenal, fantastic DC character. But the extremists, the extreme left, the far left, are very upset by this cancellation because this was going to star a Hispanic woman. And this was going to co-star an LGBTQ plus actor as her best friend. They're not angry about the cancellation because they're Batgirl fans. They're angry about this cancellation because it was an extremist movie. So hopefully when David Zaslav greenlights another Batgirl film, which he will, he casts a comic book accurate Batgirl, not Leslie Grace, doesn't bring these directors back, and we actually spend a lot of money. We bring in an auteur, someone who understands Batgirl, and they give them a 200 million plus budget, like they would a Christopher Nolan or a Michael Keaton or a Matt Reeves. Batgirl deserves the same treatment. Don't you agree? Don't you think that's right? Or do you think it's right that they were going to release a cheap, average, movie that was going to be destroyed by critics. But the woke mob wanted it released because of who it was representing. I don't care about representation and inclusion. I don't care about people seeing themselves on the television or on the big cinema screen. I care about great stories, well written and well developed characters that are aspirational to the audience. Now, in the comics, Batgirl is an aspirational character to women, men, and people from different groups and different backgrounds and different walks of life. Batgirl deserves the very best. Or don't you think so? Or would you rather a Batgirl movie being released that isn't very good? As I say, that's mid, not very interesting. You know, Brendan Fraser, a man I'm very happy for, who's back in the game and doing well after what he's been through, has been complaining about the cancellation. No shit, Sherlock, he's in it, and he won't be getting any royalties now, because if that movie hasn't been deleted yet, it will be on the fire very, very soon. And it's the only place it should be. It should be burnt alive. It's not fit for purpose. My sources have told me this. But you people who are so angry and so upset are not Batgirl fans, and you're not DC fans, and you're not fans of great stories. But for you Batgirl fans and DC fans who are triggered and upset by this decision, don't be. We will get an epic, awesome Batgirl movie in the future. But this film isn't it. They got the casting wrong, they got the writer wrong, they got the directors wrong, and they certainly got the budget wrong. And as I say, Batgirl absolutely deserves better. Who do you think would have made the better Batgirl movie, whether you love Joss or hate Joss? Joss Whedon or these two directors? You know who would have made the awesome movie, because Joss Whedon is a Batgirl fan. He understands Batgirl. And I'm so frustrated and bored and triggered by these extremists moaning on, slaughtering David Zaslav. Who was it? The Mary Sue journalist publication saying the same person that the DC president has to report to is the same person making bad decisions. No. You think the cancellation of Batgirl is a bad decision because it starred a Hispanic woman. And I don't give a fuck. Now, Leslie Grace didn't deserve this. Of course she didn't. But Leslie Grace should never have been Batgirl in the first place. You know that, and I know that. It's time for some fucking truth bombs. Like David Zaslav, I care about the integrity of DC and these wonderful characters and these multiverses protected, and not casting people because of what they look like. Casting people because they're the right fit for the job. It's as simple as that. So when we do a Batgirl film, when they do get the best writer-director for the job, it's the right person, and as I say, Batgirl deserves the same quality of director, the same amount of budget as Batman does. And this is not what Batgirl got. So for all you wokies out there screaming and crying about this film's cancellation, in fact, you should have a go at Toby Emmerich and Walter Hamada. Why? Because she's a woman, does she get lesser budget? Why? Because she's a woman, we have an average unknown actress playing this role. Why is it because she's a woman we get average mid directors making this movie? And why? Because she's a woman, does she get dumped on streaming? Those are the questions you should be asking. And if you're not asking those questions, you don't give a fuck about strong female leads, and you don't care who plays these characters, who writes these characters, and who directs these characters, as long as there's a woman there and you can talk about your virtue signaling bullshit. That's the truth. As I said earlier, David Zaslav was the only one protecting and fighting for the integrity of Batgirl. By cancelling this movie, he protected the integrity of this character. David Zaslav has already discussed protecting the integrity of the DC logo. And by cancelling this movie, that's exactly what he's done. I don't want to be hearing from people this was a bad decision or David Zaslav is a clown. The right decision was to cancel Batgirl. And that means the future of DC live action is in the right hands. Rightly or wrongly, the Flash movie is still going forward and we are getting a Flash prequel comic, The Fastest Man Alive, and I love this artwork. It looks absolutely amazing. So the hype train begins for this movie that's not out till next June. I suspect the marketing will start from the release of this prequel comic, The Fastest Man Alive, and that's good. Why is it important that we get the marketing early and we get a full trailer very soon? I think we will get a full Flash movie trailer very soon because this movie's financial potential at the box office has been damaged by Ezra Miller's antics. So it's very important we turn that around. And one thing's for sure, now he's apologized and all this is behind him again, rightly or wrongly, and he faces no punishment for his alleged actions, or their alleged actions, should I say. It's important that Ezra Miller is front and center of this marketing. I don't want to see anyone else in this marketing. I want Ezra Miller. He is the Flash. I don't want him to mention his behavior, to make any more excuses for his despicable behavior. I want him to promote this movie. I want everyone, including myself, to be hyped for this movie. So the first issue of the Flash prequel comic, the first volume, The Fastest Man Alive, should have been released ages ago, but they decided, because the movie was delayed, to delay the release of the prequel comic's first volume. I don't agree with this because we could have done with some positive hype for this movie when this was about to be released, but that was their decision. And maybe they were worried people would be forgetting about the movie if they started releasing the prequel comics early, so fair enough. Ezra Miller's The Flash movie reveals new villain in prequel time. Even amidst an incredible amount of turmoil stemming from Warner Brothers' Discovery, next year will finally bring Ezra Miller's The Flash to life after years of delays and changes. And while there are still countless questions about how this movie will be promoted amidst the controversy surrounding Miller, well, let's be absolutely clear, as I've already said on this very channel today, he must be front and center of the marketing. He's done what he's done. You've decided to release this movie, so he has to be there. He's the star of this fucking film. As all these journalists have already said, he's literally in every fucking scene, every fucking moment of this fucking movie. So he's got to be front and center of the actual marketing. End of story. There are an equal number of questions regarding what will actually happen in the movie itself. The biggest thing that fans know about The Flash is its use of the multiverse, which will bring back Michael Keaton's Batman from his 1989 and 92 solo movies. Or will it? How much will this movie be changed? He'll join forces with Miller's Barry Allen and even Ben Affleck's DCEU Batman, even with the story beats being largely kept under wraps for the time being. If I was a betting man, I'm not, but if I was a betting man, I would absolutely say that this movie is going to change considerably. And in the original movie, Keaton's Batman was going to be the DCEU Batman. Shit decision. But in the end of this movie, I believe that Ben Affleck will remain as the DCEU Batman. Quite right too. Affleck's hero was also utilised in a prequel comic alongside The Flash, where the two Justice League members interact with one another for the first time since both versions of their team-up movie. Now, another prequel comic has expanded even further on the story, introducing fans to a new villain that will take the spotlight next to the Scarlet Speedster. Flash prequel comic highlights terrifying villain Bleeding Cool revealed 4 pages from an upcoming The Flash prequel comic that shows off one of the movie's upcoming villains named Gerda. Only introduced in DC Comics in 2001, steelworker Tony Woodward was thrown into a vault of molten steel, that's gotta hurt, after assaulting a female employee. Oh dear, a toxic male at the same time. Suits today's Hollywood brilliantly, doesn't it? Turning him into a sort of living metal being. So this is him. I'm not sure if this is from the prequel comic or from another comic, but this is Gerda. So he's looking pretty good there. The comic starts off with Ezra Miller's Barry Allen speeding through the streets in pursuit of his latest bad guy, who he takes down in quite brutal fashion as he smashes into a nearby car. So here's another panel for you. You won't be able to see that too well, but there you have it anyway. Shortly after, Gerda bursts his way out of a nearby semi-truck, shocking Barry as he realizes that the mob is packing a living steel wall. And here's more. So the artwork is really, really good. So I'm looking forward to for all the volumes of this comic to arrive at my front door. Yes, I will be purchasing it. What's interesting is how many people will actually purchase these comics. Barry then tries to come at Gerda by hitting the villain with everything he has. Although it actually hurts Barry more than his opponent, the steel in the Gerda's body makes him nearly impervious to physical hits, with Barry even comparing it to punching a wrecking ball. And here's more artwork, looking really good again. Oh yes, I like the look of this comic. And it's great hype for the movie as well, isn't it? We had a Man of Steel prequel comic, which was equally as epic. The squad of goons then offers Gerda triple their original rate for him if he kills the Flash, which he agrees to fairly quickly. And here's some more panels for you if you're interested. I think they look great, and I think this is going to be awesome. With the Flash introducing a villain that's only been around in the comics during the 21st century, fans will be curious to find out how big of a role he actually plays in the plot. Combine that with the fact that this story is confirmed to traverse different corners of the multiverse. Interesting. And it becomes even less clear how this new villain will fit into the grand scheme. Now, this is interesting because this movie clearly will no longer be Walter Hamada's multiverse strategy vision. So, in a way, unless they've changed these comics to fit into the new version of the movie, but I don't even know if they know how they want to change this movie, if they're going to actually change this movie. So that's an interesting talking point as well. This could end up being one of the antagonists from Barry Allen's homeworld that he's in the middle of fighting. Before he meets Michael Keaton's Batman and moves into other dimensions and timelines. There's also a slim chance that he will only be referenced minimally due to his role in this comic, although those questions likely won't be answered until the Flash moves closer to his release. And even though this villain will be an interesting plot point to watch out for, there are countless other bigger questions that need resolution over the next year. Look, I've seen a test screen of this movie, but I think the version of this movie we see in cinemas next June will be completely different. One thing I can tell you, that Barry Allen moves from universe to universe in a section of the film, and you quickly see some very interesting versions of these DC characters, multiversal versions. And there's even a certain Batman who was in a Batman movie this year that we get a quick glimpse at. Will he still be in this film when it's released next year? That's going to be very, very interesting. But I made a point while reading this article. How many people are going to buy this prequel comic? Why is that relevant? Well, we all know certain people are going to boycott this movie because of the way Ezra Miller has conducted himself or themselves in the past few years. So how well this comic, this first volume of this prequel comic does, The Fastest Man Alive, will be a clue about the Flash movie's box office. Could it be that people will just ignore his bad behavior and actually hype up this movie. I think geeks and nerds, like you and me, are very, very fickle. And I think when it comes to seeing Michael Keaton, Robert Pattinson's Batman, Christopher Reeve's Superman, Linda Carter's Wonder Woman, etc., in a DCEU movie, ultimately, we're not going to give a shit. I ain't boycotting this movie. Now, I've spoken up against Ezra Miller and their conduct, because you should. He's accused of grooming. That has not been proven. It's an alleged accusation, I must say that. But the accusations that are under him are very bad. But here's the thing. I don't need him to be a paragon of virtue. Now, the things he's accused of are disgusting. In a modern free-thinking society, we would have an industry that wouldn't employ people like this. Unfortunately, the entertainment industry is populated with people like this, but they still think they have the right to look down at us and lecture us and call us man-babies and toxic males, etc., and ists and isms and racists and bigots. But that's up to them, because they're worse people than us. Don't get me wrong. No one's perfect, but these people are the true supervillains. But he's done what he's done. And ultimately, my point about this is, I don't give a shit about what he's done. If I'm being honest, even though I think it's disgusting, it's not going to stop me watching this movie. We have 4 very exciting DC Extended Universe movies coming, and I can't wait, along with you, to review them, to watch them, and to get hyped for them. This has been Movies TV Mad with Tuesday's show with me, Mick, your host with the most. Just ask your girlfriends and your wives, please like, share, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you never miss this beautiful perfection, and I will see you in the next video. I hope you enjoyed this video. Until we see each other again, goodbye, au revoir, auf Wiedersehen.